All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants Hangout. My name is Joe Grabowski. I'll be your host for today, and I'm so excited to be helping to facilitate this virtual field trip to Iceland. We're meeting up with the leader of an expedition down there, Hugh James. So on the 20th of October, his team, the Anturus team, which is Welsh for adventurous, arrived in Iceland, the land of fire and ice. And their goal is to create new education videos, resources, and media to be shared with classrooms all over. So they're in the heart of Iceland's famous ring road. They're venturing to waterfalls, glaciers, fissures, and lakes. And if you haven't had a chance to check out their social media pages, Facebook and Twitter, they're just posting some phenomenal pictures and videos, 360 videos at waterfalls, amazing pictures of the aurora borealis, so the northern lights. It looks like it's been an absolute blast so far. So Hugh, this is Hugh James. Is Iceland living up to its reputation so far of a land of fire and ice?
Do you know what, Joe? It certainly is. Like, we're out here, we've been out here for a week now, and we've had all kinds of weather. We've had torrential rain, we've had amazing sunshine, and currently we have snow. So the ice part of the fire and ice is doing well. So it's about 1 or 2 degrees here at the moment, but we can't complain too much because it's not raining, it's actually snowing. And the location we're at today is a bit different to some of the other places we've been to. So we've been to a few glacial lagoons next to glaciers. We've been to some volcanoes. And today's particular location, we just dashed from a geothermal energy plant, which was amazing, where they're creating hot water and electricity for the majority of Iceland through geothermal activity. So sucking the water from underground and heating up turbines, or turning turbines using steam, and creating electricity using the heat from the ground, which is crazy. So we came from there this morning. We were also at a place where they were making bananas. They were growing bananas and figs and coffee and grapes and all sorts of things in a land that is very icy. So this particular place, oh, hello.
Hello.
We've got someone, so we're on a call with, these are all classrooms all around North America.
Oh, hello.
Where have you just been?
We went through the.
Oh, here we go.
Snorkeling.
Hello.
Hello.
What was it like in there? Otherworldly.
I cannot feel my hands.
It's very cold. It's about 6-degree water, so it's very,
Yes, so
very
cold.
cold, but good though, yeah?
It was wonderful.
Yeah, fantastic.
Come to
And we're from Florida, so
Oh, there we go.
if we like it,
So from your native place of Florida. So it's warmer back in Florida at the moment. I
Oh
think.
yes. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
See you later.
So
So those guys have just been in this particular. Oh, let me take you down to have a look, because this particular place is the rift between Eurasia and America. So America, or the North American plate, is getting further away from Europe all the time by about 2 centimeters per year, and there's a big continental divide in between in the ocean that pushes America and Europe further apart. So this particular place is called Silfra, and you can go diving in here, and you can swim in between the tectonic plates. So right now, I'm stood in Europe, and if I was to go, let me walk down, and now I'm standing on America. So we've got 2 different places. We've got a European continent, which is over here, American continent, which is over here. So it's a very special place, and you can dive in between this. You can go scuba diving down, and that's what those two people were doing. They were snorkeling in between those 2 places. So you can wander around and you can dive in between there. And all of this, as we look back up, this goes all the way up towards a glacier, and the water that comes down off the glacier runs through this continental rift and makes the visibility, so underwater you can see for about 100 meters. So it's a fantastic place to go diving. I'm just gonna head a little bit higher for you guys to see, because this lagoon is the only place, Iceland's the only place in the world where you can actually go up and over and stand on the land between the 2 tectonic plates. All the rest of it's underwater. You should be able to see right across there. So all this is part of Silfra, and you can dive all around there. You can scuba dive all through, and on our website, on our YouTube channel, there's some footage of me diving here back in May, and they are right, it is very, very cold diving in between this. The water is about 6 degrees, which doesn't sound too cold in terms of air temperature, but in terms of water temperature, it's very, very, very cold. I'm gonna wander a bit further on for you guys to see. You see the current weather here at the moment in Iceland. It's very Icelandic. There's 2 types of weather in Iceland. It's either raining or about to rain. And if it's not about to rain, then it's definitely snow. So you can see all this landscape is very volcanic because the whole island is a volcanic island. You should be able to see a little bit better now all the different landscape you got. And that's all a rift in between the 2 continents. So all over there is America and all over here is Europe. And it's constantly getting further and further away each year by about 2 centimeters, the same rate as your fingernails grow every single day. So I wanted to kind of pitch it to you guys to see if you had any questions about Iceland, about science, the expeditions we do, and all that kind of stuff. So Mr. Grabowski, if they've got any questions, I'm very happy to answer them.
All right. Well, Hugh, this is a really good coincidence because I was going to ask you about this fissure today because it's a place I would love to dive. And I know that I knew you'd been there before. So it's amazing that you're here right now. That's so cool. Yeah. I actually, just in case, I queued up the video of you diving. Do you want me to play it? It's about a minute. I can share screen and they can get an idea of what it looks like underneath where you were just standing.
Yeah, I could do with a minute to put a power cable into my phone as well. So it's good timing. Okay,
so boys and girls, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and I actually have the video of Hugh when he's diving in between the 2 tectonic plates. So we saw it from above. Now we're going to get a chance to see it from below. So if you guys just give me 1 second to do the share screen. There we go. And I'm going to pop open the video. All right.
We've literally just jumped out of diving between 2 tectonic plates at Silfra in Iceland. So where the Mid-Atlantic Ridge is splitting apart, getting America and Europe further apart, there's a place in Silfra in a lake where you can dive in between the 2 of them. You can touch the European and the American plate both together. And the water is absolutely unbelievable. So clear, partly because it's crystal clear water because there's a little part of a glacier run through which pushes all the sediment out from the area where we're diving in. But it's the best. Try suit diving, so you have a suit on that no water gets into, and it makes it it's not actually that cold. But it's a great place to go and see how geology works, see how the earth works. Silver diving is amazing.
All right. So I'm just going to bring my screen back here. So Hugh, that's pretty, it's like we're on the same wavelength this morning. If you can still hear me. Hugh, can you still hear me? All right, so Hugh might have to pop back in. He may have just lost the signal. I know he was plugging back in, but I don't see him at the moment. But that was a pretty cool location to be. The only spot where you can see where these 2 to be able to reach out on one hand and touch North America, and on the other hand, touch the European continent. So that is such a cool location, and I'm glad that we were able to see it from above and below. So what we'll do is we'll give Hugh about 30 seconds to pop back in. So his signal probably dropped when he plugged back in. So he should be popping back in shortly. And what we'll do is we'll go from class to class. So I'll introduce the classes. Hey, Hugh.
Sorry, I lost you for a second.
That's okay. I was just saying that it was like we were on the same wavelength today.
It's almost as if we're professionals.
Yeah, like we get these things done. That's awesome. So Hugh, I'm going to introduce you to a class at a time. I do want to give a big shout out to your hat with the Canada flag. We have 3 classes from Canada joining us today.
I knew for a fact you'd enjoy that.
All right. So I'll introduce the classes and I'll let them fire away with a question or two. So we'll jump to our
I'm
first.
going to wander down to an area that's a little bit closer to the fissure as well. So go for it.
All right. Sounds good. So let's get Mr. Bartnick's class. I'm turning your microphone on. Okay, so they're joining us from Enid, Oklahoma, and they are a grade 5 classroom. So go ahead with your couple of questions.
What's the coolest thing you have seen?
Okay, say that again, sorry?
What's the coolest thing you have seen?
Oh, the coolest thing we've seen, in terms of, well, maybe in temperature, the coolest thing we've seen is a glacier. But in terms of what's the best thing that we've seen so far, I quite like the geothermal power station that we saw that was turning the heat of the earth into electricity for people's homes. So a lot of the time, the swimming pools out here, the water that comes out the taps, your hot showers in Iceland are all powered by the heat of the earth. So the water comes out of the ground and it's already hot and it goes into your showers. So if you want to take a hot shower, it's just the hot water from the ground. And in the geothermal power station, they use that to create electricity from it. So I think for me, as amazing as the engineering is here, as the geology, is here, the engineering of the area is even better. So I think the geothermal energy station is probably the coolest thing we've seen so far. Great question. Any more for you, Mo?
My name is Michaela. Why are there volcanoes in Iceland?
Oh, another good question. Apologies if it looks weird when I'm so close. I'm just listening intently. So the question is how many, or how are there so many volcanoes in Iceland? And it's because there's different parts of the world that are more, that have more volcanoes than others. And Iceland in particular sits on in a very special place in between Europe and America, where lots and lots of volcanic activity happens. And actually, we don't know that well why there's so many volcanoes, because it sits above a rift in the earth, but we're not quite sure why, particularly in Iceland, we get so much volcanic activity close to the surface. And there's lots of research going on at the moment to find out why that is. And scientists are a bit divided on why it is. Some people think that it's because there's lots and lots of magma very, very close to the surface. And an amazing engineering project at the moment is trying to find out if they can tap into that magma. So they're digging down 5 kilometers into the ground to get energy straight from the underneath the earth lava that sits there. So what they're trying to do is find out, well, why there's so much volcanic activity and why it's all so close to the surface. But you know what? We still don't know. And sometimes in science, you don't know why things happen, but that's what we try and find out. Great question.
All right, great questions. I just want to remind the classes who are joining us today, and we do have a few viewers as well, please do take some pictures of your class, post them out on Twitter, and make sure to include the hashtag Anturus Iceland. Is that right, Hugh?
That's definitely the one. I thought you were going to say, please do make sure you include the hat.
Perfect. Let's jump to our class joining us, Mr. Wigmore's class. They're joining us just down the road in Brampton, and they are a grade 4 class.
It's right there.
Right up to the
Hi, buddy.
Hi. My question is, what type of animals are in Iceland?
Oh, good question about animals. So the animals out here in Iceland tend to be quite farm animals. We see lots of cows and lots of sheep, but there isn't loads in terms of wildlife. It's pretty hard for wildlife to exist out here. But they've got lots of reindeer. We see reindeer walking across the roads quite a lot. Some kinds of birds. We see harbor seals. quite a lot. But they're all animals that can exist in cold weather because currently it's snowing quite a lot. We're only in October, but we'll head into November and December, proper winter. However, to live out here as an animal, you've got to be quite hardy. So normally reindeers, Arctic foxes, Arctic hares, that kind of thing. Anything you live in cold weather will live here. Great question.
Thank you.
Make sure you say
Hi, I'm Nazri. There's any unique in the habitat of Iceland?
Is there anything unique?
Yeah,
Is
that was the
anything
question.
unique?
Yeah.
Yep. So there's lots of stuff that's pretty unique to Iceland. One of the types of animals that lives here is an Arctic hare, like I said, and that changes its coat from summer to winter. And Arctic foxes do the same, so they're grey in the summer and then white in the winter to blend in with the snow. But the particular habitats that we have out here are very cold and very hardy. So one of the things that they'll try and do is well, go into hibernation for the winter, but also there's certain animals that will live close to volcanoes and certain things that will live close to volcanoes. So you get lots of flowers around volcanoes and lots of animals that live there because it's a lot warmer closer to the volcanoes than it is further away. So what they try and do is they mix the coldness of the winters here in Iceland with the warmness of the volcanoes. So it's a bit of a mix between the two, really. You get the fire and the ice, the warmth and the cold. So geothermal is living here, and lots of geothermal as well. So it is fairly unique, but there are other places like high up in Hawaii and great question.
All right, so Hugh, looks like you're getting one of Iceland's 2 types of weather. Is that a little sleet just started?
It's been snowing here for quite a while now, Mr. Grabowski. And if I disappear, if it turns off, it's because my phone is currently getting, well, it's getting quite wet, but also it's so cold here. It's probably about 1 or 0 degrees that my phone battery is just dying and there's not a lot I can do about it. So I apologize if I disappear.
Okay. Do you want to get somewhere where you're more sheltered, or are you okay?
I'm fine. It's just my phone that's not like it too much.
Okay.
I'll stay on as much as I can, though.
Okay. So we have a question from my class in Guelph, Mackenzie. She's going to pop in for a very quick question. Go ahead, Mackenzie.
Do the tectonic plates move closer or farther apart?
Great question. Tectonic plates. I love a bit of geology. It was actually part of my degree in university was on geology. And yeah, you're exactly right that there is a difference between the tectonic plates here. So this divide that runs down here is getting further away. It's called a divergent boundary for the geologists amongst you. And divergent just means that they're getting further away. So you get convergent boundaries where they come together, divergent boundaries as well. And then you get constructive boundaries where they make something happen like a mountain range. So this is all a divergent boundary in between the US and Europe. So that means that they'll get further apart by about 2 centimeters every single year. It's a really good question.
All right. It's going to jump to Freehold, New Jersey. I believe it's a grade 4 class. Mrs. Wilson's class is joining us. Your microphone's on.
Hey.
This is Brandon, and he's got a question.
Like, what after a volcano erupts, like what is in like Iceland? I know it's kind of cold, so what is the environment like? What is like the sky like? What is the whole environment of it like after the volcano erupts?
So that's a really good question, and one that we're currently looking into quite a lot as scientists, because you're exactly right that it's very, very cold here, and on a lot of the volcanoes there's glaciers, and the glaciers on the volcanoes add to the volcanoes going off. So let me give an example. There's the Vatnajökull ice cap is further down the road, and that particular ice cap has volcanoes underneath it. But when climate change happens and the glaciers start to thaw out and turn into water, and the water goes down into the volcano, what can happen is that volcano or the water that goes into the volcano turns to steam. The pressure rises, and creates a volcanic eruption. So the question is, does climate change increase volcanic activity? Because when climate change warms glaciers, the water goes in, turns to steam, and creates a volcanic eruption. That volcanic eruption then aids climate change. So there's a big cycle going on. So a big theory in geology at the moment is, does climate change increase volcanic activity? And we're not too sure on the answer yet, but it seems like it's a sound theory, but we're looking into it more and more. So with an increase in climate change, there is an idea that Iceland will have more and more volcanic events. And the last one that happened, the big one, was in 2010, so 6 years ago. Have a think about where you were 6 years ago. And it stopped all of the air traffic across Europe. So imagine a big part of America all stopping because it was under a cloud of dust. And I know you guys have had that in the US and Canada before. Mount St. Helens is a great example of that in the US. Though all the air traffic stopped across Europe and lots of people were stuck in different places. So as well as being a big geological event, from a human geography point of view, from knowing, how it affects humans living around volcanoes, that was a good case study for us to look at. Why do people live near volcanoes? I'm going to clean you guys off a sec. I'm going to get a cloth and clean you off. Why do people live near volcanoes? And is it safe to still live near those volcanoes? That's a great question. I'm not quite sure of the answer, but, well, this is the type of weather you get and the type of landscape. So I think I could live here. I think it'll be fine. Okay.
All right, one more question, guys.
Here we go. We have Megna. Go ahead.
My question is, how do you survive in the cold in Iceland? Do you have special gear?
Oh yeah. So a great question about surviving in the cold. Like I say, it's currently about 0 degrees. I was in the Amazon this summer, so I spent the summer in the jungle. It's a bit of a different environment. I have my Peruvian scarf, and I have about 4 layers on underneath. So we make sure we have the best kinds of clothing and outdoor clothing as well. You have to be able to withstand quite cold temperatures to do any kind of scientific research in Iceland. So we make sure we wrap up very, very, very warm, for sure.
All right, I'm going to jump to our class joining us in Los Gatos. They're in California. If you don't mind turning your mic on, you can go ahead and ask a couple questions.
I don't know if I want to talk to them, so it sounds like it's really warm in California.
I bet you it probably is.
It's raining right now, but it is warm, so.
Oh, makes me feel better.
This is Anna. She has a question for you.
Are there a lot of earthquakes there since the 2 plates are coming together?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And scientific knowledge as well, because in Iceland at the moment, there's been a lot more earthquake activity. And I think that's because of all the volcanic activity as well. And you're exactly right, that the 2 are very much linked. You can have earthquakes without volcanoes, but along with volcanoes, you get a lot of earthquake activity. So there's an increase in earthquake activity at the moment in Iceland, and everyone's a little bit worried that that's going to mean lots more volcanic activity as well. And I think we all know that is true, that there is going to be a lot more volcanic activity around Iceland, not necessarily because of the earthquakes, but the earthquakes show us that, well, that could be true. We could have a lot more volcanic activity pretty soon. Good question.
All right, good question. Mrs. Riley, you'll just have to unmute your mic one more time for the second question.
There we go. I have to squat. How did you get into exploring?
How do I get into exploring? I think most explorers fall into it without knowing. So I just loved to travel. My degree is in astronomy and space science that I did at university. And I did a bit of geology in that as well. And I've always been fascinated by how the Earth works. And I really wanted to kind of travel and see the world. So there's nothing better really to explain how the Earth works than go into places where the Earth is changing. So somewhere like this, where the Earth is literally changing under your feet as we speak, you get to see how the Earth works. And science really is a study of the natural environment. It's a study of nature. So I wanted to do that, and there was no way better to do that than to go to the locations where it's actually happening. So I'm a scientist by heart. To be a scientist, sometimes you have to go to the locations of the places you're studying. So I'd call myself a scientist first, and then an explorer afterwards, and then a photographer and filmmaker after that, because that's the way I kind of impart that knowledge onto other people, really, is by making films and by taking photos. So I kind of fell into it. I think everyone does. But great question.
All right, great questions from California, rainy California. Mrs. Murray, there's a couple classrooms with her. I think Mrs. Call's group's with her as well. They're a grade 3 class in Vermilion, Ohio. If you don't mind turning your mic on, you can ask a couple questions.
I was wondering, what do you eat all the way down in Iceland?
So I said again, how did we get here?
I'm saying that what do you eat down in Iceland?
Oh, that's a good question. And currently what we're eating is lots of pasta, which isn't very Icelandic. It's more Italian. However, I know for a fact that one of the things they eat here is rotten fish. So they put fish in the ground for a long time and let it go a bit rotten. So it just smells a little bit, and then they'll dig it up and then they'll eat it. And in the lots of supermarkets, you find rotten fish, but also sheep's heads, and for some reason, bottles of blood that they use to go into their meals. So I think a very Icelandic thing to do is not let any of an animal go to waste when they want to eat it. But also what they do is they make sure that in all their meals, there are lots of nutrition, because of the environment, actually, because of the weather, everyone has to stay really well fed. So we try and do that too, but we do it through more European food than Scandinavian food. So the pastas and the potatoes, rather than the rotten fish. And they also eat puffins here as well, which are a type of seabird. But I prefer to eat things that I'm more used to. Thank you for the question.
All right, one more.
How many people are with you?
So on my team currently, and do you know what? I don't know where they are, because they dropped me off in the middle of the road so I could jump on the call with you guys, and then drove off. And they've gone somewhere else. I don't know where they are. I hope they'll come back for me. There are around 5 other people, and that consists of camera people, so people who are filmmakers for a living, a plasma physicist who knows all about the Northern Lights, a geologist who knows all about the country, and a geography teacher who helps us explain geography to schools like yourselves. So we've got quite a few different people involved, and it all helps us take videos and photos and get it through to people like you. And we put them on our Twitter and on our Facebook. It's at Anturus on both, Anturus. And if you've got any more questions like that, or want any videos, then we'll definitely try and put those kind of things up, because that's what my team are there for. Good question.
All right, great questions. As we switch over to a new class, I'll let Charlie from my class pop in and ask a question.
Cool.
Go, Charlie.
Have you ever seen any volcanic activity?
So any volcanic activity? Well, it depends what you mean by volcanic activity. We see, just driving down the roads here in Iceland, you normally see hot springs going off, so steam coming out of the floor, or maybe a geyser that goes off, shooting hot water into the air, like those in places like Yellowstone National Park. But at the moment, there's not loads of magma, so that turns into lava. So we travel around and trying to find that, but at the moment there's not a lot of smoke or ash coming out of the volcanoes. We did see some on Mount Etna when we were down there 3 years ago in Italy. It's the the first time we spoke to Mr. Grabowski, that here in Iceland at the moment, there isn't much volcanic activity, which is good and bad, I think. Nice.
All right, we're jumping to Kansas, Hutchinson, Kansas. Mrs. Warren's classroom is joining us, and they're a grade 6 class. If you don't mind turning your mic on, you're good to go.
How come
Hi, buddy.
Greenland and Iceland terrain is completely different, but their names are opposite to their terrain?
Great question. So yeah, this is Iceland, but as you can see, there's lots of green. And if you go to Greenland, then normally there's lots of ice. And the rumor I heard, and I'm not sure if it's true or not, then that when the Vikings came to Iceland and were the first to inhabit it, they called it Iceland because they didn't want anyone else to come here. They thought it's such a beautiful place that they wanted to keep it to themselves and called it Iceland. So everyone thought it was too cold to come to. And they didn't need to do the same thing for Greenland. They want to send people there, so they call it Greenland. So it looked like everyone wanted to go there. And I'm not sure if that's true or not, whether people, they called it that because of that. However, don't listen to it when people say that Iceland is full of ice, because it is cold and there is ice, for example, up there, if you can see it in the mountains. However, it's absolutely beautiful, and there is a lot of green around as well, but all this greenery is on top of lava flows. So there's not loads of things like grass that we're used to, but there's a lot of moss and other things on top of lava flows, for sure. It is quite green in Iceland. Good question.
All right, go ahead with one more.
If you were to go camping in the mountains, what is the most helpful things you need?
So it's the question, if I was going to go camping in the mountains, what would I take with me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. So the things that I would always take with me is a really good sleeping bag. My sleeping bag normally has lots and lots of duck and geese down in it to make it very, very warm. So I'd always take one of those, and a waterproof housing to go around it as well, called a bivy bag. I'd always take those. A little camping stove I would take with me too, and stuff to eat, so good nutritious fuel to eat. And lastly, I would just take my camera. I'm always taking photos and taking videos of places. So, I mean, I can live day to day in the mountains with very, very little, but I love to take my camera with me to be able to take videos and photos to share with people like yourselves. So outside of the regular sleeping bag, waterproof jacket, and all the normal stuff, a camera, and we've just started doing 360 cameras and infrared too. So I'd probably take those in if I was to go camping here in Iceland, because the landscape is so phenomenal that I would just want to share it at all times. I'd prefer it if you guys were here with me, if I'm honest, but this is the next best thing for sure.
All right, we wish as well.
I bet.
Our final class is in Orangeville, Ontario. Mrs. McLaren has some students in the library at Spencer Ave. Go ahead and turn your mic on. You guys can ask a couple questions.
All right, can you hear us?
Yep.
Yeah, can hear you great.
Okay, first of all, we just want to suggest that you have a teacher librarian on your team.
Ah, that would be fantastic. Is that you?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay, that's not a question though.
I think it's to Bermuda, so
Perfect.
that'd be perfect.
Okay, Aiden has a question for you.
Hi, Aiden.
Hello.
Hi, man.
What would you call the space between Europe and North America? Would that be like a no man's land?
Oh, that's a good question. Very political as well, I feel. The space in between is called the Rift, which sounds quite cool. And you are right, it's kind of like a no man's land because it's not part of Eurasia, which is Europe and Asia, that continent. It's not part of the North American plate either. So we just call it a rift that's in between the two of them. I'm not overly sure who it belongs to. Obviously here in Iceland, the land belongs to the Icelandics. But in the middle of the ocean, it's international waters. So all of international waters is kind of like a no man's land anyway. So, because it doesn't belong to any particular country. So here in Iceland, it belongs to them. In open waters, it's international and is a no man's land, but it's called a rift. Great question.
Okay, and one more if you have it.
Yeah, one of our
Great library, by the way.
Yes, it is a great library. One of our students had to leave and was wondering, groundwater. We're doing some research on groundwater. What can you tell us about groundwater where you are?
So the groundwater in Iceland, like I said, it comes out and it's already hot. It's geothermal, but has lots of minerals in it already. So a lot of time it'll taste a bit funny. You know that the sulfur tastes and smells a bit like eggs. So it comes out in, you know, when you're having a shower, you can smell the sulfur as the groundwater comes out and is used for the shower. But it's completely safe to drink. So we can drink all the tap water here in Iceland. And it's fantastic for showering in because it has so many minerals and nutrients in it. It's great. And a lot of it also, because all this fissure is all from a glacier. So a lot of times if you live near a glacier, you'll use the glacier runoff as your water source. So it comes from a few different places. If it's under the water table, it comes out and it's hot and it's mineralized, or it can come from the glacier and is as pure as water as you can get, really. So, and it tastes great, by the way, too. Nice.
All right,
Thank you very
great
much.
questions. Hugh, we did it. We visited all the classrooms.
Hey.
Thank you so much for going to such a cool location. Thank you so much for what you're doing out in the field and sending it back to classrooms. I can't wait to see more of it coming back in. Again, I can't thank you enough for this experience, for this group of classes.
And thank you for the questions. And if you do have any more questions that you want to send to us on Twitter or on Facebook, we're at Anturus, Anturus, and we'll try our best to get around and answer those questions as we hop from place to place. We're off to a glacier tomorrow called a Solheimjökull. And if you've seen Interstellar, it's one of the locations for that film. So we're going to have a look at how it's changed across the years. So if there's any glacier questions you have or anything about Iceland, just pop them to us on there and we'll try our best to answer them.
Okay, well, I'm going to end things off the way we usually do, turning on the microphones and giving the classes a chance to say goodbye and thank you. But teachers, if you did take any pictures, please post them on Twitter with hashtag Anturus Iceland. We'd love to see you guys from the other side of the camera. All right, so Hugh, thanks again. Good luck with the rest of the mission, and the microphones are coming on.
Thank you, guys.
All right, everybody, thanks for joining in. We're signing off.